Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today, I'm going to show you a great little tool for Warhammer Age of Sigmar that I've recently found. It was shared on Twitter by @JPYanis. I will put a link to his Twitter in the description of the video, and I'll also put a link to this site. What I found was something called Listbot. Now, this is an interesting little tool, I think, for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and I'm going to show you how to use it today, and also give a sort of description on the information you should think about what it provides, and also the stuff you should maybe ignore. So, for starters, I've got up here Warhammer Community. You can go onto War Scroll Builder, which is a free web app where you can build online lists for. I've built a Living City Wanderer list. This is the list that I'm going to be building on the channel. I put up a vote on what my next army should be. So this is what won that vote. So we're going to be doing this Living City list. Now, what you need to do is put in your list first of all, and then you need to click on this little army summary icon. Go click your question mark. You go to the short version, and then you click copy, and it'll copy it to your clipboard. You then go over to Listbot, which I've got here. I will put a link to Listbot in the description of the video as well. And you put it in this little box here. It says, so you paste, put your list in, all of it's there, you can see now, and then you click analyze here. Now it'll analyze my list. And so what it does here is it gives you a bunch of things. So you can see here, this gray bit here is the average sort of thing that Age of Sigmar armies do. The average sort of range. And the blue, purple, maybe, I'm colorblind, it could be blue or purple. On top here is what my list does. Now you can see in some areas it's potentially weaker, it doesn't have quite as much mobility, and its war scroll value is lower than the average army. Now let's talk a little bit about all these things it's calculating here. So war scroll value, it's effectively taking all the war scrolls in the game and applying a value to them. It also takes lists that have previously done well at tournaments and obviously places those armies with certain models in them at a higher value than lists that have done poorly with lots of models where they recently, or if a unit is in a list that consistently do poorly, it'll be rated much lower. For an example of something I read when people were questioning him on how things work on Twitter, it was, say, like ghouls are worth 100 points, but they're actually valued at 70. That's what Listbot values them as. You can take that for what it's worth. It's not really important here. But effective wounds, this means, how many wounds have you got on the table. This takes into account things like horrors and stuff, so I'm told. Mobility is simple enough. How fast is your army? Objective control, how many bodies do you have on the table? Overall damage, so how much damage can your army put out? Shooting damage here, and casting. These are the 7 key points that it likes to look at for your army. Now, you've then got a breakdown here where it takes all these things, and as mentioned, it takes your army here and puts it in a Listbot point value. So Listbot, while I put in a 2,000 point army, Listbot evaluates my army at 2019. So slightly better than your average 2,000 point army is what it's saying. That's a B+. And it sort of gives you grades all down here of different lists. My effective wounds, I'm at a B, so it's saying decent. Obviously, like, it's going to rate you A, B, C. S is like superpower, so S is the best, and you've got D's as well. Now, C for casting unbinds, obviously I've got very little in the army. Shooting damage C, once again, I've got very little. Overall damage though, I've got an A- because I've got quite a bit of damage, but maybe the units aren't quite as good. Objective control, I've got a lot of bodies. Mobility, C+, it doesn't take into account a lot of things. Now, this is the thing that will really pull wool over Listbot's eyes here, is it doesn't take into account a lot of special rules. It knows how to read stats and damage and stuff like that, but it can't really read rules. Now, what it does though is it takes into account the armies, as I mentioned. So if there's a model that's continually appearing, that model will go up. So it won't take into account my Living City Allegiance ability, so maybe my mobility is actually a bit better than a C+. There's things to think of what Listbot can provide you. All this information here is not necessarily concrete information, but it's maybe just things to think about. I'm like, okay, see how I'm doing here. I can go, okay, shooting damage, it's a C. Obviously, no, there's very little shooting damage in my army. I know that. I can see why the C is there. Effective wounds is a B. Cool, I've got lots of wounds on the table, but they aren't really great wounds, so I've got to think about that. However, mobility is a C+, so it's saying my mobility is not great, but I know that it's better than what it's probably rating. It's getting me to think, hang on, is it really a C+? Because I've got all this living city stuff, so take this onto account of your basic troops, and then think about your rules on top of what Listbot is telling you. So it's also going to tell you your faction strength, so it's rated all the factions in tiering, and it says that Cities of Sigmar is an A tier faction. So my overall score is an A minus, a 1327 of a score, and my list precedent is a D. So it tells you here the list precedent score is calculated by looking at the results of similar lists in previous tournaments. It is the best to consider both the list precedent and the lab scores when evaluating a list. So it's telling you to take these the lab score of an A minus and the list precedent. So really, while it's telling me my lab score is an A minus, in effect, lists that have played like this in tournaments are actually at a D. So maybe I've written a better list than some of the people in here, or maybe this army has a lot of good things but just doesn't work on the table. There's a lot of things to consider. Like, this is not like concrete information. This is just stuff to consider. And I think that's valuable information, like something that can help you consider maybe problems you didn't see in your army, or maybe think of strengths you didn't think you had in your army. This is all just good information to think about, really. So, synergy analysis. I think this is where it really comes into its own for me. So, synergy analysis, it's going to tell you where people have taken a unit in your army and taken something else with it. So it's telling me here, Nomad Prince, often taken with Eternal Guard. So I've done that in my army. Wild Riders, often taken with a Nomad Prince. Wild Riders, often taken with Eternal Guard. Wildwood Rangers, often taken with a Nomad Prince. It's then going to give me boxes that aren't ticked here. Nomad Prince, often taken with Sisters of the Watch. And Wildwood Rangers, often taken with Sisters of the Watch. So it's telling me multiple things in my army are often taken with Sisters of the Watch, and I don't include them in my army here. So maybe that's something to consider. This is definitely something to consider. It's picking out things and commonalities between people's other armies from other people, that they've picked this unit and so they've taken this other unit. And maybe you should think about, well, what does that other unit give? There's no concrete information on whether or not it's telling you the synergies are good, but it's just picking up that people who've taken this thing have also taken this thing, so you should think about this and why maybe those people have taken it. Once again, there's no concrete information here, but there's definitely things to get your mind thinking on how about you're building your list. Now, this is the really cool thing for me, the best thing, where it's going to find similar lists to yours. So it's going to find matches, and you'll see all these ticks here where it's taken similar things, and then tell you where they've done. So I've got a 55% match here with Will Osorian, Siorain, or however you pronounce that last name, I am sorry. Finished 22nd out of 24 players. So once again, it's telling me this list hasn't done well with 55%, and it's telling me all these things in the army here that they've taken the same. You know, they've got a Nomad Prince, they've got Wild Rangers, they've got Wild Riders, they've got the Viridian Pathfinders, and Chronomatic Cogs. Some differences here. He's taken a Dreadlord, Battle Mage, Sister of the Watch, and Shadow Warriors, and the Prismatic Palisade. All things I did not. He's also got one less command point. So this is all interesting stuff. Now, it's going to show you through other lists as well, and maybe there'll be lists that are exactly like yours. Lee Martin here played an 18% match to me. He's literally just got Wild Riders and an extra command point that are the same. So we're really getting into territory. So they're showing me the list, most like my list, didn't do overly well at a tournament. But this, once again, is just all information to take on board of like, well, my list is different, so maybe my list is better than this one. So I think this is just a useful tool for giving you things to think about and helping you find those things to think about when building your list. There's no concrete information here. This is all just analysis, and this is all just raw numbers here, really. But once again, it's giving you stuff to think about, and I think that is a useful tool in its own. Once again, I'm going to leave the link to both JP's Twitter, where you can go contact him about Listbot, and also I'm going to leave a link to Listbot so you can go use it and try it out for yourself. I think this is a fantastic little tool to have for Age of Sigmar, so definitely go give it a try. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And also, while you're here on YouTube, why not go check out my featured channel section where there's a bunch of other fantastic Warhammer Age of Sigmar content creators with a bunch of amazing things from battle reports, painting videos, list videos, and more besides. Also, if you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our little community on Sinful Gaming, you can do so by following the link to our Discord server in the description of the video. Lastly, we'd like to give a shout out to everyone who helps support the channel via Patreon or YouTube members. Thank you to James, AJC, JC, Christian Weir, Philip Ward, Soren, Kenny Lowe, Alder and Shotfirst, Cowspawn, James Crowder, and Andrew Jarvis. Thank you all for supporting the channel. And if you'd like to help support the channel like they do, you can do so by following the links in the description again to either Patreon or YouTube members. Thank you all for watching though. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.